Hello, my name is Justin Bright, and welcome to Kerbal Space Program version 1.8.1 in my next small step realistic progression 1 playthrough. And that's right, 181. So I have made the jump. I have switched over to the newest version with the newest install with the latest release of RP-1 that has come out in the last couple of days. And yeah, so once again, that is something that is not necessarily recommended by the developers for a save file that you care about, because it could very well break things, and version updates are the doom of many RP-1 careers. So if you decide to do this, which again is not super well recommended, back up your saves. Back up a lot. Back up everything. Like, back up your entire install is the way that I've been doing it. So yeah, so I have, if this ends up failing, I can just jump back to my 173 install, which will be right where we left off. But anyways, I wanted to make this update, not because 181 has a whole bunch more features, but because it has a whole bunch more performance. The 173 release has most of the stuff that 181 has, but it runs a lot better in 181, and it also is going to let me be kind of future-proofed, so that for any further updates and improvements that they make to the game, I will be in a good position to make that jump, because I don't yet really have anything in orbit, just one defunct satellite, and a couple things on the ground, so there's not a whole lot of infrastructure. So this was the time to make the jump, and so we've done it. And if it breaks, then I can just jump back to 173, no biggie. So let's get into it. All right, so I guess it's time for us to set some new objectives, because it was a really big push to get this rocket orbital, and like I said, we got about a year ahead of Sputnik and 2 years ahead of Explorer. So we're actually doing really well if we're trying to recreate a historical playthrough where we're beating everybody by combining their technology. Yeah, if we combined the Russian and the US technology bases together, we would have something better than both, which I think is probably true. But yeah, I'm not too confined by trying to roleplay one particular agency. I'm happy to use everything that I have available to me. But anyways, the only contract that I still have accepted is the X-Planes High, which I'd been working on to get some extra cash and funds and stuff, and I see no reason not to continue with that. So I've got another X2 Psyplane building because I keep trashing the poor things. But yeah, so when that one launches, then I'll be continuing on the manned path. But now that we have an orbital launch vehicle, it's time for us to kind of take a look at some of these other early satellite contracts to see what it is that we want to work on next. All right, so this seems like it's probably the most reasonable, maybe, or at least the simplest. This is the first navigation satellite contract. We'll be building basically the precursor to the GPS. Let's see. Historically, the first experiments in satellite navigation were made with Transit 1B, 119 kilogram payload on top of the Thor Able Star, which we do not have the technology for yet. As far as the Thor Able Star, I'm planning on doing a lot more rocket building once I actually get some new engines. Right now, I don't have anything interesting and new to build. Although that might not actually be true, because there are a few engines that are locked for me now, like the M65, which I think is a start node rocket, interestingly enough, that they must have added in one of the later versions, well, that they've added since I first installed my previous save. So I'm not sure that this is going to be anything that we need at this point, so we can probably not worry about that one. The S2253 I talked a little bit about, but these are new. These are the XLR-41 and the XLR-43 engines, which have no entry purchase cost. Yeah, so digging into the start node of the technology tree once again, you can see that yes, there's some modular tanks that I had not unlocked, ringed couplers, some RCS thrusters from the Probes Plus mod that I also added. So we can just get those, that's fine. I'll just end up hiding them probably, but it's not that big of a deal. The XLR-41 came in the post-war rocketry testing. And here's the interesting thing. So you know how in the start node we had somewhere in here, I don't think it's actually worth Oh, here we go. Nope, never mind. Yeah, the A4 rocket. So that is the American, or not the American, that is the actual V2 rocket engine. And then you kind of don't see anything from the American side until all the way up in basic rocketry when we get the A-series engine, which is evolved from that. So the XLR-41 and the XLR-43 are actually steps on that path. So they began their life as the A4 rocket, and then that is the American path towards the A-series rocket. So I'm not 100% sure that there's any real point in me using these old ones, because we have something that's technically better. But I can play around with that and see what I think. Other new things, we got some new cockpits, some turbojets that maybe we'll use someday. This appears to be some kind of procedural solar panel. That's very cool. Resize the panel, select the level. That's very cool. I like that. In the avionics, there's some probes plus versions of the batteries if we want nicer looking batteries, but I'm not sure I'm willing to spend 3,400 funds on that yet. I usually end up just sticking battery storage inside of the service module anyways. Okay, so I think that's going to do for our updates to our technology. We've got now what we have, and I think that doesn't change too much, but I'm going to play with the these new engines and see if there's any exciting new things that we can do. All right, so this M65 engine appears to be an absolutely adorable, teeny tiny upper stage engine, which is actually kind of nice. I'm not sure if it's better than my Aerobees because it has like 1.5 kilonewton of thrust. Yeah, so this version, the upgraded version, the RDA 1150, has a little bit less than 1.5 kilonewton of thrust, and it has 2 ignitions, but it also has ullage that it has to deal with because it's a pressure-fed thing. So yeah, that's kind of an interesting, like, no payload upper stage kind of deal, which is interesting. I'm not sure that it's something that I want to use, but yeah, it's definitely something that's it's interesting to play with new tools and see what they add, and think about the issues that I was having using Aerobee engines as upper stages in the past. Yeah, so playing around, I've just put together the XLR-41, and I can see how this would replace my use of the RD-101 if I was going pure American, because you can see like the RD-100, around this time we'd have the RD-101, I think. So if we were to switch over to that, you can see 400 kilonewtons, 210 to 237 ISP, and this is 333 kilonewtons, 203 to 239. So strictly worse than the RD-101, but it fills a similar niche. And then poking at the XLR-43 is also fairly interesting. Let's put the right tankage on there and see. This is rated burn time 60 seconds, so there we go. That's pretty darn capable. Let's see, just about 400 kilonewtons, 219 to 258. So yeah, that's actually starting to finally compete with the RD-100 series for the role of main booster. And then, whoa, this is kind of a fascinating engine. That's actually really good. Wow, okay. So this NA-3 variant is going to cost me 80,000 funds, which is ridiculous, but it's 600 kilonewtons with an ISP of 230 to 265, which is really good, I think. Like, I'm just comparing that to the A6 that I have, which is like 200 fewer kilonewtons and dramatically lower ISP. So yeah, that's a bonkers good engine. Wow. I'll have to see. Yeah, I'm really curious to see if that's actually worth that purchase price to make this my main booster over the A series, because we're eventually going to be upgrading the A6 to the A7, which has that ISP but not the thrust. Man, that's fascinating. I don't really know what to do with all that. So this kind of changes things a little bit for me in the design of my rockets. But all right, so this is fascinating. I just bought the engine in a quick save so that I could, just check it out before I reload and go back. And it gives me basically slightly worse performance overall, like by like 100 or maybe 70 fewer delta V than the A series does, but it gives me way more thrust. So I actually could, in theory, put a much bigger upper stage on this and have that go a lot further? Question mark? That's an interesting thought. Oh, and here's the biggest interesting thing that I just noticed in terms of career progression. Using this engine with this layout has me up over almost to 10,000 meters per second of delta V with my Explorer 2 payload, and I'm only just over 20 tons. So we could probably shave this down a little bit more even and get under that 20 ton. There we go. So we're under the 20 ton threshold, which means we could do this on the very first pad and have gotten orbital. So yeah, this is no longer something that I absolutely need to do, but just an interesting career progression thought as far as what I've done and what I would have done differently had I had the version that I have now. Alright, but after dinking around a bunch, I didn't find anything that changes fundamentally the way that I want to design my rockets for now. I tried something silly like putting an XLR-11 as an upper stage, but I just couldn't get the math to quite work in a way that I find interesting, so I think I'm going to leave that on the drawing board and just wait for new technology to come out to help solve these problems. Alright, so we're making some edits to the Explorer 2 so that we can nail our first NavSat contract. So we need 100 units of NavSat payload, which I've managed to cram 12 into our lovely Science Core procedural avionics up at the top here, because it had some extra room, so I really couldn't tell you where it even is. There it is, 12 NavSat payload. And then I had to stick an extra tank on here, procedural service module, so that we could get the other 88 units of NavSat payload. So that's where that is going. And this just barely gets into orbit. You see it, that reduces our delta V by 450 meters per second, which makes it very dicey about whether this gets into orbit. I tested it and I was able to get it once, so I'll probably be able to do it again when it's actually live, right? So anyways, yeah, that's going to be that, and this is also going to be the last time we use this rocket in its current configuration, because one of the key features of RP-1 going forward now is the new tank mechanics. So there's no longer just tank 1, tank 2, tank 3, etc. Now it's actual, like, structures, different structures and materials, and there's a ton more in the tech tree. Like, you start out with steel tanks, and then you move on to aluminum tanks, and then you move on to aluminum tank 2, I guess. There's more description on these in, I think, the research, the R&D window, but we can talk about that later. So anyways, yeah, this is the way that tankage works going forward, and I've tried tooling this rocket with all of the new tanks that I can currently make, and it loses almost 1,000 meters per second of delta V. So we're gonna have to figure out what we're gonna do about getting rockets into orbit once I tool to the new technology, but because this one is 37% of the way finished, I'm just going to have one last cheaty narwhal get into orbit, and then we'll see what we can do from there. Alright, one other thing that we need to do now that we have a whole bunch more money is we do need to save a little bit for unlocking nodes, but we definitely can be putting some points into R&D, because that is, once again, back to our bottleneck. So let's see, I don't know, 3 points? 1, 2, 3 in R&D. That gets us 23 points, 18 science per year. We'll get this satellite era material science in 130 days, and then a lot of my problems with my tankage will go away. So if you're interested in doing some reading, you can actually see that they have written in what the historical context is for each level of tank now. So you can see that the aluminum 2 tank that I'm using is aluminum stringer tanks, and then this talks about what the actual physical construction is of an aluminum skin stringer frame tank. So it talks a little bit about that. And so I don't think I'm going to read off all of these. I mean, I'm going to read them for myself because I find them really interesting. But yeah, if you install the game, you can go through and read all these. And interesting thing is that they have it for everything. So look at this. We start with aluminum fuselage, and then there's one in the start node too. And then there's balloon tanks, integral structure tanks, aluminum gridded tanks upgrade. So that's a new isogrid and orthogrid hollowed out structure, etc., etc. Nothing on this node, but then we have aluminum copper alloy tanks and gridded aluminum copper alloy and etc., etc. Like, you'll see that there's a bunch more upgrades than I think there were before, which introduces lots of different interesting choices that you can make. So I'm really looking forward to that. So I hate having this many funds hoarded, because I have 300,000 right now, but look at the cost of all these parts, for goodness sake. The LR 105, 79, and 89 are almost 100,000 funds each, and then the new upper stage that I want to use is almost 23,000 funds. So I'm hoarding money until I unlock this node, but I think that with new material science, I'll be able to make a lot of advancements with the engines that we have now. So yeah, there's a balance to be struck between investing my points, investing my money into points, and making sure I have enough money to unlock the engines that we're going to be using. All right, here on the pad with our last Explorer to Space Narwhal. So 3, 2, 1, engines. Just adjusting all of my UI bits. All right, we are throttled up and launch, and off we go. Huzzah! So this is intended to get to a orbit of 300 kilometers minimum perigee, and then a maximum apoapsis of, it doesn't matter, it's got 100 units of NavSat payload, and we need to be at a 45-degree inclination orbit. So zooming in up here a little bit, you can see that we start at 28 because that's where Cape Canaveral is, so that's very, very handy. But that does mean we do need to make our gravity turn, not at the 90 degrees, but we need to go a little bit north. So we are going to do that and just try to push this up into a 300 kilometer apoapsis at 45 degrees, and hopefully we'll be able to circularize that. So yeah, when we get the new technology node, which I think I'm going to wait to do because it's only like another 40 or 50 days until we get the next level of material science, I'm going to have to redesign everything, which will be a lot of fun actually. But no more Space Narwhal. As lovely as this has been, it's a very weird looking rocket. It's basically just a bastardization of the bumper whack design that I've just kept forever because it's worked. But the next level of tank science is going to change pretty much everything for us. So look forward to new designs on my rockets then. All right, 3 seconds until cutoff, and boom. Wow, we barely made that to 317 kilometers of apoapsis. So, oof. Little bit tight. So let's go ahead and decouple that booster and begin getting ourselves down to where we want to go. Yeah, and you can see our inclination is 46 degrees, which is gave us an extra degree on that. So that should be just lovely. So let's just push this just below the horizon, and then we have plenty of time to stabilize. I want to fire up this engine at about 1:45. All right, we're 2 minutes out, so I am turning off SAS guidance stabilization, and we are beginning our rotation. And we are firing up our ullage thrusters on the bottom there, and we're off. Fabulous. Everything seems to have worked so far. Fantastic. Yeah, so now we are going to just burn this for another 2 minutes. Oh no, permanent shutdown on the AJ-1027, 3 seconds early. Woof. Okay, I'm actually not sure if we are going to get this into orbit because of that. So, oof. Yeah, because when I tested this, it was like barely perfect in getting into orbit. So yeah, very, very dicey. And you can see that even now we're still getting more data collection. I'm not sure why the collected data is lower than the data at launch, but yeah, I'm not sure 100% what that means, but I know that the other version of this, the AJ1027, actually had a full 10,000 DU, but it failed anyways, so, you know, what do you do? All right, we are just getting our last... And this one failed too. Okay. All right, mission failed. That is a shame. All right, well, this is going to burn up in the ocean. It looks like we are just going to make it partway around the world. We're not even going to get out of the Atlantic Ocean. So that's not great. Hopefully we are able to build a better rocket next time. I could try to rebuild this one. But I feel like I shouldn't because it's using the old tanks, and like I told myself that this was going to be the last time I used the old deprecated procedural tanks, so there you have it. We're just going to see if I can't make it with the new technology, and this will be our first rocket. Alright, so something terrible has happened to our X2 Cyplane. Yeah, once again, this is why it's very dangerous to upgrade your save in the middle of a career. But this is the last one of these that we're going to have to worry terribly much about. So yeah, these are, let's see, I could just make this plain metal. We'll have a nice, or no, we don't have to do, yeah, we can go to the recoloring UI and go to stock white. I finally figured out that's how you make it so that not everything is shiny metal. There's the recoloring UI for textures unlimited. Then you can just make things, I said you can make things stock white. Stock white. There you go. Okay, so yeah, you open the recoloring UI, you make sure that it's actually set as plain metal, and then you just stock white, and there you go. Okay, I'm not sure what has happened here, but once again, this is a symptom of upgrading in place. So I am just going to like fit these gaps back together. There we go. I'm putting this plane back together, darn it. So that's there, that's there, that's there. Let's see if there's any additional science that I can add onto this thing. So we've already got a thermometer and a barometer. And one nice thing you can do with Kerbalism is you can set it to automatically turn on, and then you just never have to deal with it. You just fly your missions and your science just handles itself. It's wonderful. So we've got that. We've got the film camera here. I've actually snuck on another film camera, the early television camera, underneath to, you know, record how awesome this is going to be. And yeah, that should be it for the science that we can do with this plane. Yep, okay, so there we go. So that should, in theory, work. This may explode violently when I actually try to use it. We'll see what happens. I'm going to save that. Oh, goodness. Okay. All right, here we are with Rostislav Yelyanov, and for some reason, the textures didn't stick. That's frustrating. But yeah, we're turning the fly-by-wire on. It looks like it's stuck on the wings for the most part, or some of them. Yeah, it looks like the wings are right, but nothing else is. I don't really understand why that's happening. But that's fine. I'm not that stressed about it. We are probably going to retire this plane soon enough anyways, and maybe rebuild one that uses the new tanks and all that sort of thing. So anyways, here we are. Rostislav is heading up. We are trying to get to 55 kilometers, and that's really all this mission is just hit 55 kilometers and go on home. So we can use the absolutely fabulous atmospheric autopilot to hold us very steady as we are climbing very rapidly. Atmospheric autopilot is like, it feels like cheating. It works so well at what it does, but yeah, look, it's just perfectly holding us perfectly still. We're not wobbling, we're not flopping around. Everything is just working the way that I would expect it to. It's great, and I think it's fantastic. So we're gonna level off just a little bit, slow our rate of climb. We need to get to 55 kilometers, and then we need to get no higher. So that's how we're going to be doing that, and hopefully I have set my parachute such that we will not break off these engines. But anyways, yeah, let's talk a little bit about Kerbalism. So one of the things that we're running is the supersonic flight analysis, which is examining the telemetry of what supersonic flight does on the body of an aircraft. Ooh, it looks like we're going even higher than I thought we would, so let's level this off real quick. There we go. So anyways, but that's something that you don't get in one flight, because supersonic flight is something that you can only do while flying high, or maybe flying low, but there's you can only get it while flying inside of an atmosphere, and it takes half an hour to do, so it's not something you can get in one go. It's something that you'll have to get over time as you fly more and more and more flights, which, you know, makes a lot of sense. That's kind of how real research was done on examining the transonic regime of our atmosphere. But it's something that you set on, and then you just kind of get that science over time. So that means every single flight is going to get us like a couple fractions of a point. And same thing with telemetry analysis, which we might actually finish. But yeah, we're running that. We're running visible imaging from our television camera. Doing crew reports, not doing photography because we're not in the right situation. Probably need to land for that. But yeah, that's the way that Kerbalism works, is that you set up a bunch of experiments and then you do them slowly over time, and you just get science, and you can set them to running inside the VAB or spaceplane hangar, so you never have to stress about when to press the button for what science. You just kind of set up a mission, and then you get science over time. It's much, much better. So I am pretty darn high above Kennedy Space Center right now, so I am just kind of tipping myself down, and we are starting to begin our descent back into the atmosphere. So yeah, I'll swing around and see if we can't land this thing. Oh dear, we are coming in really hot. I'm not sure why I didn't expect this, but I'm not sure we're making it all the way back to Kennedy Space Center, because I don't dare touch the controls right now while we are bleeding off this nearly suborbital trajectory's velocity. Ooh, and we are cooking the wings a little bit. Yeah, this is pretty dangerous, but we are going down at about 200 meters per second. So I'm not that stressed about it. We still have plenty of runway, so to speak. Ooh, yeah, look at what just a little touch on the controls does to the G-forces. Like, you've got to be very careful with that. Alright, so we are nice and slow now, but the Kennedy Space Center is very, very far away. Alright, this plane with atmosphere autopilot is just amazing compared to, you know, me trying to fly it with regular KSP SAS. I've actually managed to glide all the way back across Florida towards the runway here, so we are getting pretty low, but we're also going pretty slow, so I'm trying to hit this runway. Oh my gosh. But I'm still not very good at this, so I don't think we're going to hit this runway the way that I'm flying. Oh gosh, okay. So let's just kind of line it up and hit the chute. Whee! And turn off the autopilot so it stops fighting. And there we go. Oh no. Oh, that's not great. Oh no! Oh! Wait. we're okay. Yes! Despite my terrible flying and attempts to blow this thing up, we have landed safely right next to the spaceplane runway without having blown up anything. The engines are intact. And we have completed several contracts. Broken the cruise speed record of 1,500 meters per second, 60 kilometer altitude record, and X-plane high contract. Alright, I think the reason that the texture was weird is because I had legacy textures enabled on that plane, so I think changing it to this kind of defaults over the top, but if you have this enabled, it'll go to the other thing, so that's fine. I can do the recoloring, and we will launch this one a couple more times. I will want to rebuild it eventually for the new tankage and stuff, but for now I think I can just keep running this one behind the scenes. But I think I am all out of time. We've had a pretty design and plane focused episode. Well, I guess that's actually a pretty good balance of all the different things that I do. Lots of planes, lots of design, a little bit of historical talk there. I'll try to get more of that in now that we're dealing with more historical rockets with my new stuff that I'll be getting soon. But anyways, if you enjoyed this episode, please let me know down in the comments below. Let me know what you like, what you didn't like, what you'd like me to do more of. Like and subscribe for more, and I'll see y'all next time.